Good afternoon, folks. We're very excited to be speaking to you today about a topic that's very near and dear to our hearts, and that is IT security. I want to talk to you about how you can build your security foundation. And I want you to pay very close attention because you may think that you have all of your bases covered, but we're going to challenge you to step back and make sure that you have all of the fundamentals right. Today, I'm going to be your host. My name is Sean Saylor. I'm the VP of Sales over at Liongard. Have been here since we first went to market in early 2018 and have been in the MSP industry since 2009. Definitely know what it's like to walk in your shoes. I was on the sales side of the MSP. However, I walked beside some very stellar engineers in the years on that side of the fence and know what it's like, know what it's like for you guys to deal with all of the fun things that happen on a day-to-day basis. So definitely have a utmost respect when it comes to what you have to deal with. And so the subject of IT security has been elevated to unprecedented levels. And the list that you see here on the screen, that list is not going to get any smaller. If you guys can rewind back just a little bit, remember the days when you heard about a breach, every now and then. Well, the problem is that technology never stops. And what we know for sure with technology is change is the only constant. You see, the attackers that we're dealing with today, they're becoming more sophisticated, and they're looking for folks on this call who have let their guard down, folks just like you, and they're after you, your MSP, and they're after your end customers. And the list of ways they're doing that, that list of attack types is not going to get any shorter. You guys are very familiar with, ransomware and malware. Phishing is the lowest hanging fruit, easy entry point. I can't tell you how many times I hear about, some user clicking on an email and then that's their entry point. And then now we've got state-sponsored cyber attacks. There's just a ton of stuff that's out there, and you guys have to keep a handle on it all. And almost every solution that you're familiar with dealing with or combating these problems, those are all what we refer to as post-breach. They're going to let you know you have a problem after the attacker has already made it in. So think about those types of solutions. Those solutions are the antivirus that you may have, intrusion detection, or the SIM solutions. And those are all going to let you know the bad guys made it in, plain and simple. Okay. And if you think that you have a firewall and that becomes that barrier, right? And that firewall is all you need, well, the walls that you build to protect your environment, your fortress, those walls are permeable. Attackers are going to go around them, they're going to go under them, they're going to go through them, and you have to be positioned well. And it's not a matter of if an attack will happen, it's a matter of when it will happen. And you have to be in the best position. And so you need to be able to predict what are the paths that an attacker will take, right, to minimize your exposures. And you need to have full visibility into all of the systems, the surface area that you are responsible for covering. And that's going to give you better control. But the key thing is you can't have a bunch of different configurations out there in your customers' environments. You have to standardize those things to really keep a handle on it in order for you to scale as well. Now, if you think about the attack, so I talk with my hands, so you're going to have to bear with me here. So if you think about when an attack happens, if that's in the middle, okay, most folks tend to be to the right of bang, okay? So those are those solutions that I talked about, those antivirus, those SIM solutions. They're going to let you know that a problem already happens. Well, when you're only dealing with the right of bang, okay, you're in a reactive mode, okay? And those advanced threats that you're dealing with, the guys that make it in, they have ways to evade those detection solutions. They have ways to evade antivirus, ways to evade the other solutions that are out there, okay? Like, for instance, you may be using a login solution, which is a lot of what SIMs will use. They're looking at logs. Well, again, they're telling you that you got a problem after the problem's already there. And then you have to react, respond, and recover. But I want to challenge you to think of starting to the left of bang. What are the things that you can do as an MSP to prevent the bad guy from making it in the first place? Now, the reality is you can't stop everything, right? I gave you an example earlier. You can have the greatest firewall, you can have the greatest detection methods on the other side, and you can have the greatest servers. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But if there's a human involved, and there always is, you're not your fortress can still be breached. Okay, so you still need to know what is the path the attacker took after something happened as well. Okay, so I want you to think about that. Now, today's IT landscape, it looks a lot like this, right? It's chaotic, it's complex, and you're probably managing IT just like this guy in the middle of the screen, with data scattered all over the place. And each of those systems that you are supporting, it has its own portal, its own reporting, its own alerting, and you have to look at them individually, tenant by tenant or customer by customer. So it's nearly impossible to keep up with it all, right? You are trying to tackle this with bodies, humans, okay? Well, when you start to add more humans in the mix, that diminishes your profit. And I know that you guys are in this business to make money, okay? But the reality is you have to have visibility into these systems. You have to be able to rely on data from these systems that you can trust. And there's just not enough cycles in the day to keep up with it all, even with the best engineers. And you have to see how these systems are configured, or if they're misconfigured, or if you adhere to certain compliance standards and somebody makes a change to something somewhere that strays from those standards, you need to know when that kind of stuff has happened. And when you're managing IT at scale, so you're not doing this just for one customer, you're doing it for 10, 15, 25, 50, 100, right? It doesn't scale when you're trying to keep up with it with just humans. That's why your team feels overwhelmed and stressed and can't keep up, right? Well, the days of the traditional network perimeter and the siloed security that you've taken, that approach that you've taken, those are gone, right? We know what works and what doesn't work. Well, what doesn't work is doing manual discovery and documentation of these systems. That's incapable of providing the detail and the frequency you need that's necessary to get ahead of problems happening, right? And then if you start to compare what's happening in one system to another system, the correlation of data, right? From that rapidly expanding number of different systems that you have to support, that doesn't scale either, okay? And doing a one-time audit, many of you that are watching this right now, you do one-time audits, or you do an audit of a customer when you bring them on board, right? But that is not sufficient to keep up with all the changes that are taking place in these ecosystems. Users being added, privileged access being granted, licenses being changed, different software being introduced, right? But what does work is the unification and automatic gathering of this information. That's what's necessary to detect potential exposures in your customer security posture in this new era of cloud and the Internet of Things that are out there. Okay. And you, as an MSP, you have to provide a management plan that addresses the potential threats that are not only seen by you, but the unseen. It's not what you know that'll kill you, it's what you don't know that will, right? And that is where data comes into the mix, okay? Data is king. Having good data on all these systems is really critical to your success. Now, the other element that you got to think about is those misconfigurations. Whether it's your staff or there's a third party involved that's interacting between you and your customer. Sometimes there's third party of accounting vendors, whoever else is in the mix, or even the customer that you're supporting, their employees. If they have administrative access to these systems and they have the ability to add or make changes, guess what? That's how IT misconfigurations take place. A good example would be over provisioned accounts. right? We've got too many active accounts to the number of truly active users in an environment, or over privileged accounts. Somebody has been granted privileged access to Active Directory or Azure Active Directory, Microsoft 365 that doesn't need it, okay? And you've got to keep a handle on that. And there's also organizations that are neglecting to use simple multi-factor authentication. And instead, they're using weak passwords on sensitive information. And there's this improper handling of stale accounts. So when somebody leaves an organization, could you say with 100% certainty today, for example, that you've accounted for everybody that's exited one of your customers, right? Stale accounts become attack surfaces as well, because an attacker would love to find an account that is active but no longer being used. You need to know where those are. You need to know who has privileged access in a system. Now, why do I say data is king? Well, all of this information that I'm talking about is extremely helpful in you proactively and predicting potential cyber attacks. What is the path that a bad guy would take, right? Where are the areas of exposure? But that's just the tip of the iceberg. So regardless of the systems that you're putting in place for your customers, whether it's the coolest antivirus product, the coolest SaaS product like Office 365, right? Or you've got these brand new servers, these file stores, and these cloud services, or the latest and greatest firewall. Um, all of that must be continuously and correctly documented. You need to know exactly how that system is configured, okay? And that's what enables you as the MSP to remain alert to any of the changes and be agile and nimble enough to correct them in a timely manner to prevent things from happening. So what good data does for you as an MSP when you've got all this information at your fingertips, and then you couple it with your own industry knowledge and the knowledge of solutions that can help you gather this data and help you identify those problems, right? That those insights lead to high impact outcomes for your customers. Okay. So the struggle is data warehousing. So how do I gather all this data and how do I store all this information effectively? So the gathering and storage of that, those are key. And the insights, right, that you see when you have this data, right? Those lead or open the door to new opportunities, and they help you close the vulnerabilities that are out there. Okay. Those insights also allow you to do some other ancillary things that are effective for having great relationships with your customers too. Simple things like better reporting for billing, reconciliation, conducting quarterly business reviews, onboarding your customers seamlessly, and conducting continuous assessments. Okay. Now, this is where I want you to think, okay, well, you guys don't have to try to figure this all out manually. Okay. It's very daunting. There's a lot of things out there, right? You guys don't have to settle for that nonsense anymore, thanks to advances in automation. And so today, there's a game-changing solution, all right? A solution that gives you that unified visibility, one place that's collecting all that data, inspecting all of those systems for you every single day. And that's exactly what Liongard was designed to do for you, okay? Liongard delivers the ability for you as the MSP to standardize the configuration state of those systems, right? Secure them and scale your business with automation. So you no longer have to keep hiring bodies to keep up with all of this anymore, right? You can leverage automation to help you scale faster. Less bodies, more profitability. Okay. Automation, more efficiency, right? Those are the things that I want you to think about. So with one swoop, you can unify all those different systems that you're supporting, all those different portals that you're having to log in today. You've got 50 tabs in your browser opened up to keep up with it all. You don't have to do any of that nonsense anymore. And all the data comes into one centralized location, and that is Liongard. Okay. And what Liongard does is it doesn't hold this data hostage. This data can feed right into the places where your team needs to use it and see it effectively. It will push it right into their PSAs. Good examples like ConnectWise or Autotask or ServiceNow, Synchro. There's several different PSAs that data can feed into. Or if you've made the leap and invested in one of those documentation platforms and you think this is going to make my life wonderful, well, guess what? You quickly realize that that documentation platform is useless without the data. Somebody has to get that data in there. Do you want to pay a human to do it? Or do you want to let automation do the heavy lifting for you? And that's what I want to challenge you guys to do. But think about the pre-breach and post-breach message that I talked about a minute ago, because that's what Liongard does. It straddles both sides of the breach. We want to give you full visibility into your customer's environment so that you can identify the problems that you have. What are the gaps? What are the doors that you need to close to prevent the bad guy from making it in? And remember, no environment is impenetrable. Like somebody can always make it in when there's humans involved. Okay. So in the event when that happens, you need to know what happened afterwards. And Liongard has that historical context for you. Now, what I want to encourage everybody on the call is to request a demo of Liongard at gridheart.com/Liongard. Or if you've seen a demo before and you were thinking about going ahead to get started, there's a sign up page right here. You can see that as well. So you guys will be billed directly from GridHeart for this solution. But I want to encourage you, if you're interested in learning more, to schedule a demo. We'd be more than happy to go through the application in detail, including your individual stack. But walk away today with the message, do I have all my fundamentals right? Do I have all my bases covered? Am I only operating my MSP with a PSA and an RMM? Well, remember what the RMM stops at. It stops at the endpoint. That surface area that you guys are responsible for is so much more. The RMM is not enough. The network monitoring and management solutions that you have just by themselves are not enough. They're only talking to one layer. Liongard goes across the stack. And so that's what I want to challenge you is, do you have with certainty full visibility into what's going on in your customer's environment? And can you predict what an attacker would do? Or can you prevent the attacker from getting in there to begin with? So that is the end of the presentation, and I want to turn it over to the GridHeart folks here for just a moment. If you guys would like to see anything specific in the app, or I'd be more than happy to go through a few minutes. I know we wanted to try to keep this efficient, but this webinar is recorded for your reference as well. I don't see any questions that are out there, but feel free to drop those in the Q&A. Be more than happy to assist you with that, or reach out directly to GridHeart, and they would be more than happy to address those with you too.
Right.
Gentlemen?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sean. It's been a pleasure listening to you. And I personally come from the MSP space, so I can definitely see the need for this type of service. It's, we used to work with SharePoint lists and trying to keep documentation up to speed, which is virtually impossible. So we are really happy to have this solution on board in our portfolio, and happy to speak to any of the GridHeart partners that are interested to learn more.
Awesome. So let's see, quick look at Microsoft 365. Absolutely. So happy to do that. So let's take a look here. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen again here. All right. So inside of Liongard, this is a SaaS solution, so there's nothing for you to manage and maintain. It runs in AWS. It runs over in the EU as well. We refer to your customers as an environment. The systems that we inspect, those are we've got 64 and growing integrations today. Anytime Liongard finds something that needs your attention, that's what we refer to as an actionable alert. Those alerts can go right into your PSA, and we have the ability by inspecting one system to discover that another system exists. So Office 365, I'm going to go into a sample customer here. Office 365 is one of the key systems, or actually most popular systems, but it's also a good example of one of the systems that has a parent-child relationship. Okay, so I'm going to search. We've got in all of our examples here, all of the systems in my fictitious company here, Contoso Nation. So with the Office 365 inspection, what you'll see on the overview screen. So think about this. If you're managing 20 to 50 to 100 or a few hundred Office 365 tenants, you got to go look at them customer by customer in there to get this kind of information. And you've got to know where to click, where to navigate. But Liongard's going to grab all this data for you. And so we'll tell you, how many users you have. You've got a signed license summary. You can also see if AD Connect is enabled. If so, when's the last time it's synced, right? And you can see licensing details. How many are active versus assigned? How many of you have licenses out there that you're paying for, but they're no longer being used, right? So you're literally pouring money out the window, right? So if you're managing IT at scale, we see a lot of savings just on the license management as well. But you can see which user is assigned which licensing. And I want to point to this timeline here at the top. This timeline is taking a snapshot of how that system is configured. It works the same way with all systems. And the timeline goes back for 12 months. So I can rewind back in time. Well, when there is a change to a system that I want to track, I can see that there's a delta on this timeline. I can click on this. I can go to my changes tab, and I can see exactly what changed on that day, right? So there were users deleted, users added, okay? I can see that this is just a sandbox, so there's nothing fun in there unless we go in there and make stuff happen. But you can see that a new account was added this day, right? And again, half the battle is knowing what's happening out there, because your customers in some cases may be the ones making changes to these systems. Now let me go back to the system details. So I've got a full list of my users. I can see if they have multi-factor authentication enabled as well. Now I want to also point out that Microsoft 365, what are the other elements of it? There's SharePoint, there's Teams, and there's OneDrive, all of which we have additional inspectors for to give you visibility into those systems, those components of Office 365 as well that complement this as well. You can see Microsoft Secure Score information. Big fan of this, because this is Microsoft's effort to help you make sure that you're shoring up your security. Security is not just Microsoft's problem. It's your problem. It's your customer's problem as well. It's a mutual agreement that you guys have to all work together collectively. So Microsoft's doing their part to highlight the areas that you need to shore up. You as the MSP need to go make sure that you're taking action and communicating that stuff to your customers as well. But you need going to dig around and all your tenants to see this is very painful. Now, this one, for every system, we keep this data stored in something we call a data print. And in this data print, we can get very granular, okay? And we can look at a specific piece of data in any system. And that's what Liongard refers to as a metric. What is that one key piece of information that I want to watch? When I've defined what that metric is, now I can alert on it, I can report on it, and I can track changes against it, okay? So it's a very powerful part of Liongard, and there's several built-in metrics that have been inspired by other MSPs that are already on the journey with Liongard. So let me just show you, right? So there's built-in metrics. There's over 100 metrics that have been inspired by other MSPs that are already using this solution. So they can report on them, track changes, get alerts on those. Same thing with the actionable alerts. Now, these are the alerts. So think about, you could have a big team of people going out to look at all these tenants and systems every single day, or you can have automation doing it for you. Which one would you rather manage? People, they call in sick, they have personal problems, they want to take vacation. Liongard and automation, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to manage automation that way, right? So with 365, again, we've got several built-in alerts, including, if somebody becomes a privileged user in Office 365, we can alert that. What about somebody setting up an external forwarding rule in a mailbox? Okay, do you have time? That's exactly what attackers do. They phish one of your users, they set up a forwarding mailbox. Now the bad guy's getting a copy of everything sent and received from that user. Do you have the cycles to go around to every single 365 tenant to see if that has taken place? The answer is no. I know you don't, right? Automation has the time to do it though for you and let you know, hey, you've got a problem over here, or there's something about to happen, right? And so that's where Liongard is going to really make you a much more effective MSP. But what about from a billing and management standpoint? Well, you can also report really rapidly. So I can go to a specific system and I can say, hey, I want to look at, imagine, again, this is just a sandbox, so there's not a lot of data in here. But if I wanted to go and say, hey, I want to see specific metrics that matter to me for Office 365, I can go in and I can add whatever metrics I want that are in there. They become accessible on the screen. Now I can report really rapidly. So somebody in billing and reconciliation can look at that, right? Or if I want to look to see which domains are associated with all of my customers' tenants, I can see that. My list of privileged users, anything I want to see, I can report on. There's also a separate reporting module, which will allow you to conduct or create custom reports with multiple systems in there as well. So for the sake of time today, I don't want to go into too much in there, but I want to encourage you, if you do want to see more, again, visit gridheart.com/Liongard, request a trial or request a demo. Would be more than happy to walk you through additional systems as well. So thanks for asking that question. Anything else?
No, I think that was a great teaser. Just for one service, and it's probably like you say, every MSP has their own mix of services and inspectors all over the place. So I also recommend for us to do one-on-ones with MSPs who wants to get this sorted. So yeah, thank you so much for showing us around and give us the teaser.
Absolutely.
And I dropped my email in the chat for people who have attended, but their colleagues might not have shown up. Ask us, and we'll share the recorded webinar.
Okay.
And we will follow up with all the resellers that showed interest for this webinar, and it's great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much. And I wish everybody a good afternoon and a great end of week.
All right.
Likewise.
Likewise.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean. Thank you, Sean.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.